This is Science Quest. With your host, Jed Allen Freels. He's taking you around the world, discussing everything science. It's Science Quest.
Hey, I'm Jed Allen Freels, and thanks for joining us today on Science Quest. Today we're going to try to catch up with world-renowned paleontologist Dr. Jim Farlow. But unlike the places that we usually catch up with him, like the Paluxy River, today we're going to catch up with him in a chicken coop. Let's go on in and see what Dr. Farlow's up to today. Hey Doc, how you doing?
Good morning. You know, the stereotype some people have about scientists like me is that we sit in our ivory tower offices and that we don't like to get our hands dirty. Not true.
Looks like you're playing in the mud, Doc.
And I love playing in the mud. What I am doing here is preparing a surface to try to get some footprints of chickens.
Footprints of chickens, Doc. Okay, tell me why we're trying to get footprints of chickens.
Well, chickens are nice, convenient birds to work with. Birds are closely related to dinosaurs. In fact, we think they're derived from dinosaurs. And if you look at the construction of the foot of a chicken or any other most other large birds, it's very dinosaur-like. 3 toes, kind of a little back toe off to the side. Now, in our field work in Texas, we have seen some interesting kinds of footprints, because usually, well, if you want to take a look at how these chickens are walking, you see there's a back part of the leg. People think that chickens' knees point backwards. But what people are seeing is the ankle of the chicken, not the knee. Because chickens and other birds walk on their tippy toes. So only the toes touch the ground, and usually the main foot bones, what we call the metatarsals, are off the ground. And that was true of big meat-eating dinosaurs as well. And most of the times when we see footprints, you get a nice 3-toed track made just by the toes. But every once in a while, and especially down along the Paluxy River, you'll see really unusual footprints where you got the usual 3-toed print and then a long impression behind it made by that metatarsal. So, at least occasionally, they were putting down the whole length of the foot. So the question then becomes, why were they doing it? Some people have thought maybe it's a behavioral kind of thing. They're doing that when they're nervous about being other animals, that wanting to make themselves look small and meek. It's also been suggested that maybe they did it as a behavioral thing when they're sneaking up on something. But some people have suggested maybe it's a function of what the substrate was like. If the sediment was softer and goopier than usual, maybe they would put down the entire length of the foot to get better traction or something.
So today you're going to try to recreate what might have happened a million years ago.
Yeah, we're going to see what we can do. I have really been working the last hour or so on this lovely mud and dirt in the chicken coop. I've broken down the big clods as much as I can. I've wetted it, and you can see from the way it's just nice and plastic. It's going to be gorgeous for taking footprints. And I've tried to make it deep enough so that the chickens will sink really far down in it when they walk. And so then the question becomes, are they going to make these kinds of tracks?
I guess the only way we'll find out is to run a chicken through the mud eventually.
I think we're about ready to do that. You want to go walking? No, nothing scary happening here. Yeah.
So Doc, what we're hoping is that these chickens will walk over and naturally walk through this mud without us herding them through there.
That's a good chickie. Go. Oh yes, the tools are fascinating, but there's some cool mud over there. You want to go through it. Go ahead. Come on. I'm not a scary thing. I'm just a guy here. Yeah, there you go. Chickens. Onward. Yeah. Oh yeah. Go, baby. Go on. A little further. Yeah, if you're anything like emus, you're going to walk anywhere but where I had put it. That's a little bit more. Oh, there you go. Oh, well, it's nice tracks, but he's not sinking.
Oh, there he's sinking a little bit.
There. Oh, yeah, that one got a little bit interesting. All right. How about any others? How about you, ladies?
Here we go.
All right.
That's going to mess up our other track.
Oh, of course, they always do that. Let's see what that... Oh, oh! Oh! Go ahead. Oh, they're sinking deep. Let's see. Okay, how about you? You go ahead. Go forward. No, don't fly. Flying is not what we're looking for here. Okay. Well, they aren't clearly putting...
Doc, tell me what it is we're looking for here.
What we're interested in is that back portion of... There's where the metatarsal went in, and it did register. It's sloping. It's not going completely flat like we see in some of the dinosaur tracks, but it is sloping downward. So that's kind of interesting. Now, let's see. I'm going to take another close-up shot of just that one. And then we're going to smooth it a little bit and see what we can do about...
Doc, what is it that's interesting or we want to find out about this back metatarsal?
Well, all we're curious to know is what are the animals doing when it registers? Because very seldom do they put it down. So it's an unusual kind of activity in which it gets registered. So what is it? Is it a behavioral thing that they're doing that they have some control on? Or is it something to do with the nature of the material they're walking through? That it's not as firm as usual, it's deep, it's soupier and deeper than usual, and so they are forced to do it. So with these chickens, if they make the metatarsal impression, like we are hoping to find, it'll probably be because of the nature of the material. And so it's just a little quick and dirty, literally quick and dirty, experiment just to see what we can get them to do. If we can mimic this feature that we find sometimes in dinosaur footprints. I want you, the coy one. There you go. If they're anything like emus, the minute I pour the plaster, they're going to be fascinated by that plaster. It'll be all I can do to keep them out of it. Alright, now I'm just going to stand here. Go ahead. Oh, no, they stop. You see how they stop? And they hold the position as though they're in a walking sequence?
Correct.
They don't put their feet up side by side. So that means that in some cases in dinosaur trackways, they may not necessarily have been moving continuously throughout that. Sometimes they might have just been standing there. I noticed that with emus. They do the same thing. Good ladies, keep going. There you go. Nice chickie. There you go, okay. No, you don't want to go in there. She doesn't want, I know they don't like it because it feels odd. There's one in there, okay. Go. Oh, I love that, I love that, I love that. Oh, I love that. Oh. And just sort of dribble it onto the surface there. Let it sink down below. And just keep adding it until it stops sinking. Right away.
And what we're doing is making up a plaster mixer then to put in the footprints.
That's right. We will pour this into the tracks, let it harden, and then if all goes well, we'll have something pretty to show for it at the end.
So what kind of consistency are we looking for, Dr. Farlow?
You want kind of like pancake batter. I'm making this batch just a little thinner than I might ordinarily do, simply because I want to make sure it seeps down into all of the toes, particularly in that deep one over there, which is quite interesting. So then we have the part that requires patience, waiting on it to cure, and making sure you don't pull them too soon, because if you pull them too soon, well, you lose them.
On a hot, humid day like today, it'll take a little while.
Yeah, I'm going to give it at least an hour, I think. Alright, so then I come here and I just sort of gently ladle it in. Trying, see, I made it really thin because I really You want it to go into all of the little marks there. And this is, I think, also made by that same bird as she was struggling. Like I said, once we pour this, we got to keep an eye on them, because if they're anything like emus, they're going to say, "Oh, what is that white stuff? It's the most wonderful thing I think I have ever seen. I must investigate and eat it." And they'll want to peck at it and do all kinds of stuff. All right, let's get these two. I think these two are a sequence.
So we'll try to cast these two as one track.
Yeah, as one slab.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And similarly, the trackway sequence that we had over there. Now, this is just the first coat of plaster to get the tracks themselves while it's wet. And I will cut some reinforcing material, and then I'm going to make a second coat of plaster to put on top of it, just to give it a little rigidity, so it'll support itself better.
Keep our trackway together.
Yeah. All right. Now we're going to do these. This was that first lovely one. I'm going to do all three of these together as a piece.
And while today we're casting chicken tracks, it's the same thing would have been happening in the sediment in the bottom of the Paluxy River when the dinosaurs were walking or traveling.
That's right. The dinosaurs would have sunk into a very soft, goopy kind of mud, particularly in the main track layer. And then it would have been filled by a different contrasting sort of material that just then, when the two different sets of sediments became rock, I know, you have a part and a counterpart preserved. There we go. Always go a little bit further than you think you need to go, just because you want to make sure you get it all. Alright, now we come to this one.
Now on this particular track, we're going to try to get all 5 of them.
That's right. I might actually leave this one until after lunch, just to give it good time, because the more time you give it to cure before you pull it out, the better. Because when we start to pull it, I'm going to have to dig all the way around it.
Take the dirt and everything.
Take the dirt and everything out, correct. And then bring it up and then gently wash it with a hose in order to get it all without breaking. And even then I'll be lucky to get it all without breaking, because sometimes you do have accidents.
But if we're real careful, we should be able to keep all 5 of these tracks together.
That's the idea.
Reinforce the backs, keep them in one sequence.
Quite right.
And since we did witness the chickens' behavior here as they made the track, we could compare the same types of tracks with the behaviors that might have been happening back in the dinosaur ages.
Quite right. Now, I don't know. It could be that after this is all hardened, whatever chips are left behind, the chickens will like it. It'll give them some nice calcium
There you go.
for their eggshells. Might be just the ticket.
So our next step will be to put some reinforcing in the back of these.
Yeah, I will let this cook just a little bit, get a little firm, and then I will make another layer, and I will mix the plaster, and then I'm going to cut up strips of burlap, soak it in it, and lay it on top of it, and that'll make it a little bit stronger, kind of like reinforced concrete.
Hey, so we've waited about 4 hours, and Doc Farlow now is going to take a little dig and find out if our plaster has set up on the tracks. What do we have, Doc?
Well, we'll find out. It feels like it's ready to go. What I'm going to try to do is go really deep so that I don't put too much stress on the tracks themselves. Just loosen it, and then I'll lift the whole thing out as a kind of pancake, sort of, and then take it outside and let it sit for a bit while I do the others. I won't start trying to clean it until I get them all out. I just want to give them as much time to set. I've lost so many of these in the past from trying to do them too much too early. And here we go. This is the part that always makes me nervous.
Yeah, it looks like it.
They turned out nice.
Yeah.
Turned out pretty nice. Look at that. You can see they're going way down into it. And you can see how that's the middle toe and it's just scrooching down. So it's a nice track, and there's a nice little claw mark made as it goes in.
And what do we find out about our metatarsal?
Well, these I don't expect to see much. These were just some tracks that were there. There's a claw. So there, I don't see much in the way of a metatarsal impression on this one, but I didn't expect to. It's that one, and those are the ones I will save for last.
Now, Doc, there are some people that think the chickens could be tied back to our dinosaur friends. Is there merit to that, you think?
Well, I think so. I think there's good evidence that birds and dinosaurs are very closely related. If you look at the fossils of the earliest birds, they're very, very dinosaur-like. They've got long clawed fingers, they've got long bony tails, they've got teeth, and if you didn't have feathers with them, you would not identify them as birds. In fact, there's at least one specimen of an early bird that for 20 years was thought to be a small meat dinosaur because no one had really noticed the feathers before. The irony is that it gets even better because now we even have from China some skeletons of small dinosaurs that are not birds, and yet they too have feathers. So feathers appeared even before what we would think of as being true birds.
And we take a look at the genetic code, and obviously that could be something that's been passed down over the years in the genetic code.
Oh yes.
Our chicken friends here may have a similar genetic structure inside as ancestors from the past.
So if you want to know what dinosaurs tasted like, very likely chicken. Alright, let's see what this one comes out. Wow. Alright, now there's cutting down. It's cutting down. This one's not quite as nice as the other one, but I didn't expect that may be the rear. Well, that may be the metatarsal. I wonder if that's a metatarsus. Yeah, that is a metatarsal impression going in like that.
Because our three toes
sliding down, because yeah, we've got the three main toes, one here, here, and here, and I think that is the little side toe. It's not great, but it's interesting.
Now, once you get these tracks completed here, where will they end up, Doc?
Well, that's a good question. We have a very large collection of casts of footprints of birds from around the world in the lab at Indiana Purdue University, Fort Wayne. But they're only there while I study them, working on this project. Eventually, they will go into the collection of a museum somewhere, so that they'll be available for anyone who wants to work on them in perpetuity.
So our research here will be stored someplace where other scientists can access it, take a look at the same data.
Right. Major museums are like libraries for specimens. People from all over the world, specialists on various fossil groups, will go to museums, to a major museum like the Field Museum in Chicago or the American Museum in New York or the Smithsonian, to spend time looking at specimens that they have in their collections. That's one of the major functions of a research museum. And these will be part of such a collection.
Ah, very deep.
Quite deep. We'll look at them again after I've skimmed. This one's not quite as nice as some of the others. Some of it may have simply been that the plaster wasn't even still quite fluid enough to go in. And it looks like I might have lost some of one right there. That doesn't look too good. All right, I'll be more careful on the last. Stuck. And you had to help her out.
Dr. Farlow, what kind of advice would you give young people that have an interest in possibly going into this type of work?
Well, you want to get as good a background as you can in both biology and geology. And the more math you have, the better you're going to be. Your computer skills are becoming increasingly important in this line of business. And I recommend a foreign language, particularly if you're interested in dinosaurs. There's a lot of work being published in Spanish now. Latin America and Spain itself are areas where there's a lot of work being done on dinosaurs. Or, alternatively, Mandarin Chinese would be a good one. Because China has been producing just all kinds of incredible stuff over the last couple decades.
So if you want to go into dinosaurs, learning a foreign language could be pretty important.
Oh, it's extraordinarily important. Yeah, English is still primarily the main language for publication of scientific results, but there's a lot that gets published in other languages as well. And the better you can read it, the better you'll be able to make use of that information. Well, let's see what we got here. That went really deep. So deep I'm not even sure what I'm seeing. Make sure we got it all. And I don't see any plaster that is broken off down there.
Is interesting because this is the chicken that did
yeah, this is
get
the one
stuck.
truck.
And you can even see her wings come out right there where her wings hit the mud.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we'll clean it off with the hose in a minute and see. But let's see what it feels like. And there they are. And what do we got?
Small metatarsal on this back.
Well, that though, I don't think that's metatarsal. I think that's actually the
Front foot going in.
The back. No, I think that's the back claw, the side claw, or the back claw coming around in the back. I don't. So well, let's just take them out. It looks like we may have lost some of it there.
All right.
Let's
Well,
go
our last track. Let's go clean them off.
Yeah.
And one of the last steps of our field research today then is cleaning the track off, getting the mud off so we can actually see the track itself. As we wash the mud away, we begin to see some more of the track.
Let's see what we got here. Oh, now there is a metatarsal impression. Okay, that's the impression, going to be the impression of that back claw going in, I think. And here are probably the 3 front ones going there, there, and there. And so that's the kind of thing we're interested in. So we did get at least one. And the interesting thing about it is that it's sloping. Okay, it's not flat like we see in the dinosaur tracks. So that may be telling us that it's not the mud that's causing the effect of these kinds of impressions. It may actually be a behavioral thing that the animals are doing.
Whether they're stopping to rest and setting their foot down, or...
Well, the interesting thing is when they put down the whole length of the foot, they aren't sitting. They are, in fact, moving. They're making one step. They're going one step after another sometimes. So now it may be that they're holding that position for a while and then going on. So it could be that they're resting, but it's a very curious thing trying to figure out how they would create such footprints. I have to admit that is kind of what I expected the thing to look like. It's kind of a long shot to hope that they would really produce a dinosaur-like track, a completely dinosaur-like track. Okay, this is the one where the hen was in trouble, I think, or was it that one over there?
This one over here.
Over there, all right.
We can recognize the trouble because of the wing imprint.
Oh, that's right. Quite right. Okay, so we'll set that one aside. Do this next. What's impressive is how cleanly the mud comes off. It just doesn't really adhere that much when you play a gentle current of water on them. These don't have anything. These just show what a typical normal walking bird track is like. Here's the middle toe. This is the inner toe of the front 3 front toes. Here's the outer one, and there's that back toe.
Right.
Okay. And you notice they kind of sweep back a little bit as they're going. That's pretty typical of bird tracks, and you can sometimes see that in dinosaur tracks, of smaller dinosaurs at least.
It seems to me some of the tracks in the Paluxy you saw very similar things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let's see what this looks like.
don't know if it'll turn out to be much because that bird was really doing some odd gyrations.
Yeah, she was struggling.
Yeah. Very tough to interpret what's going on in this thing. You can see the wings going down there,
right,
and making an impression. And that's somewhat interesting to produce something like that.
But as far as her feet goes, she was struggling so much that the hole is pretty dug up.
Yeah, it's kind of messed
in the
up.
bottom.
And also, when you took her out, that probably was a little bit disruptive for it as well. So, okay, well, it was worth a shot. Plaster's cheap. Now let's see what this one's like. Oh, sorry.
And this was our series of 5 tracks.
Yeah, these are the ones that I had the most hope for, as far as potentially showing something. The question is, will they, or are we just going to get a typical track? When we saw them on the ground, I thought maybe there would be something, but now that I'm cleaning it, I'm thinking what we're seeing is the impression of that back toe,
right,
rather than the metatarsus itself going down. But even though I have to say this is probably not giving me quite what I was looking for or hoping to find, yeah, that's the way it works with science. You do your experiment, and if it doesn't give you the results that you're looking for, then you may have to eliminate or abandon an interpretation and consider something else.
Well, a good lesson there that our hypothesis is not always right.
Yeah. As Thomas Henry Huxley once said, the great tragedy of science is a beautiful hypothesis slain by some ugly facts. And yeah, I'm afraid this one's, it's a nice trackway, but it isn't showing what I expected to see. It's just simply seeing that. Now, the ones that came closest to producing it, oddly enough, were the one over here, where you kind of see that the animal is going down. That's I think the metatarsus going in. And looking at it, yeah, I think that's metatarsus. That may be digit 1, although it didn't preserve there as well. I think maybe there was some collapse of the mud around the thing. That's the central toe, and these are probably the 2 side toes.
So while we didn't find the research we were looking for today, or not the facts maybe to support the hypothesis we were hoping for, we did get some good information.
And we got some idea that, yeah, maybe dinosaurs are really doing that sort of thing as a behavioral kind of thing, rather than just simply responding to a soupy substrate.
Well, Doc, thanks for joining us today on Science Quest. And I guess our lesson today is sometimes you don't always get what you're looking for in science, but when you find that information, you got to figure something to do with it, and it may lead us in another direction altogether.
You can't always get what you want, but if you try, sometimes you get what you need.
Doc, thanks so much for being with us today on Science Quest.
You're welcome.
So thanks for joining us today on Science Quest. Remember, like we always say, sometimes the answers to your questions might be found in real simple places, like this chicken coop on the farm. Thanks for joining us today on Science Quest.